Alright, welcome to New Generation Africa channel. Here we teach you how to excel academically, how to achieve your life goals, and how to ultimately become successful. Alright, so my name is EKEH CHINEDU Patrick, and I'll be taking you through the process of a review on The Life Changer, which is a novel for Jamb 2022. It promises to be very interesting, very elaborate, and very concise. Alright, so let's look into chapter 1 for today. Chapter 1 began with UMMI hearing the voice of her children, her daughters. She had 4 children, but this time around it was just her 3 daughters talking. It was Bint, Tema, and Jamila in the room, and while they were talking, UMMI was just within the premises, within close to the room, and she could not help but eavesdrop. Okay, because previously she wasn't the kind of mother who surreptitiously eavesdropped on her children's conversation, but because of the cheerful nature of what they were talking about, she had to eavesdrop. Right, so Bint was the narrator. Bint was about 5 years old, and Bint was basically telling her sisters her encounter with her meddlesome social studies teacher. What happened was this: basically the teacher had come into the class and was asking everybody to tell him how to answer, how to say good morning in French, and nobody answered. So after some time, Bint had to raise up her hand, and then the teacher pointed at her, asked her name. She said her name was Bint, and then he asked her to tell them what good morning was in French, and Bint answered that it was bonjour. Okay, so when she said it was bonjour, the teacher responded by saying, "That's very good." Now Bint now asked a question back to the teacher, and the question was this: how do you say "that's very good" in French? And it was very obvious the teacher did not know how to answer this question, so he left the class, went to the senior teacher, the French teacher for the senior class, brought him into the class and asked him to answer the question. Now when Bint repeated this question to the teacher responded by saying that the answer to how to say "that's very good" in French is "c'est très bien." Okay, now when she said this, the whole class began to clap and laugh at the same time. The class teacher of Bint left with the French teacher, while the rest of the class began to clap and cheer Bint while they moved around her. Okay, so at this point, after UMMI had listened to this point, she was very elated by what she heard. So she had no other option than to betray herself by basically entered into their room. And when she entered into the room, she started by saying that she was proud of Bint. Okay, and then she tried to explain to the girls that the teacher, Malam Salihu, was basically humble enough to explain or to say that he didn't know, and that he did not start saying things that were not correct, because at some point some teachers would actually take a wrong path by saying what is not correct. All right, so while they were still discussing, Omar came in. Omar was the first son of UMMI and her husband. Omar was the only boy, and he came in with the news that he gained admission into Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He was admitted into the Congo campus of Ahmadu Bello University to study law, and he actually came back with the news that he gained admission. He had left that earlier that morning with an anxious face. UMMI had noticed, and then he came back to share the good news to them. So when he told them that he was admitted, he came in shouting, "I made it, Mom! I made it!" While he was shouting this, they asked him what the good news was, and then he broke the good news. They all shouted and ululated. While they were cheerful and were waiting for UMMI to actually make a declaration of celebration, she actually asked them to wait for their father to come back. Okay, now Omar made a request. He mentioned that he didn't want anybody to tell their father before him. Okay, because his father had given him an assurance that he would get a smart Android phone for him if he gained admission into university. So while they were still talking, the heat in the room actually made them to go outside and receive air, because there was heat in the room. So while they were outside, Omar asked Tema to get 5 bottles of Zobo, which she sold, but Tema was reluctant to get it because, Oma has been owing her for a long time. Oma had not paid for previous drinks that he had bought, so she actually went to get it when Umi decided to pay for the 5 bottles. All right, so as they were taking the drink, Bint asked that Umi told them a story. So because Oma had been in that particular community for a long time, and he was going to a new community, Umi decided to tell them a story about her life in the university. But then she now switched over to asking him a question when she discovered, it wouldn't be appropriate to start telling him about that kind of story now. So she went ahead to now ask him, how he managed to get admission without anybody helping him lift a finger. Okay, so Oma began the process of telling them how he got the admission, from how he registered for Jamb to how he wrote the pursuit, to how he prayed to God to pass the matriculation exams, and how he went ahead to get his admission letter. Okay, that month. He also mentioned that it was very important that he got a smartphone, that many of his mates who had smartphones checked their admission status right in the comfort of their bed, right? While himself went out to a cyber cafe, spent money, and before he could be able to check his admission status. Now, Umi at this point knew that it was very important for him to have a smartphone, and promised him that she will definitely talk with her dad to get him a smartphone. So this is the end of chapter 1.